Hey YouTube, Amanda here on behalf of Core, and today we're going to cover one of my absolute favorite cards of all time, Light and Darkness Dragon. Now this card has been recently reworded to have problem-solving text, but despite that, it still has a lot of ambiguous rulings and a lot of rulings people don't realize, so I'm here to cover every single one I can possibly think of. And right now I have the text of the card written here, and I'm going to go through each line of text and then read off what that means and what kind of scenarios that can actually create. So without further ado, let's begin. First line of text. It cannot be special summoned. Now this is a condition and these can't be negated, so even if somehow it was destroyed by Dark Ruler Hades, which negates all effects, even things that would activate in the graveyard or apply in the graveyard, you wouldn't be able to use Monster Born on that. So never can be special summoned, and for obvious reasons, because if it could be special summoned, it could always special summon itself back from the graveyard and cause an infinite loop. Next part is a continuous effect, and that's while this card is face up on the field, it's also treated as a dark attribute. So that means it can be an Eradicator Epidemic Virus target, but it can only be attributed while it's face up, and remember that once it reduces itself by 500 attack the first time and successfully resolves on doing that, then it's no longer a legal EEV target. Remember that reducing its attack and defense by 500 is not a cost though, so you can activate EEV in response to its effect activating. And then on resolution, since it's not face up on the field, its effect will not negate anything. Another thing about this part of its effect is it's two attributes at the same time, just like Dark Samorg is a wind and a dark, which means if something like goes and matches on the field, because you can only control one monster with one attribute, Light and Darkness Dragon would be sent to the graveyard, and it would be destroyed so that last part of its effect won't trigger. Same works for Dark Samorg and any other monster that has two attributes at the same time while it's on the field. Next up, once per chain during either player's turn, on a spell card, trap card, or monster effect is activated, this card loses exactly 500 attack and defense, and the activation is negated. The first part you might notice is it's once per chain, and if it wasn't once per chain, then Light and Darkness Dragon would just continuously attempt to negate itself and create an infinite chain. So that's why that's obviously in place. During either player's turn, so it's a trigger effect, and when a spell card, trap card, or monster effect is activated. Now the spell card, trap card thing is something that a lot of people don't realize. It doesn't negate spell or trap effects, and it doesn't negate the activation of their effects. It only negates the physical activation of the spell or trap card. Let's say that you already had a Dark Smog on the field, and then Light and Darkness Dragon is summoned, or you had a Dragoonity Dragon Ravine on the field, and then you summon Light and Darkness Dragon, and then your opponent triggers those effects, Spellbook Tower, anything like that. Light and Darkness Dragon will not attempt to negate that. It's only when they're physically placed on the field, like I will activate this spell or trap card, will he negate that activation and effect. Also, when a continuous spell or trap activation is negated, it's no longer successfully active, so it will be sent to the graveyard by game mechanics. So something like Call of the Haunted being flipped face up, Lad negating it, Call of the Haunted will be sent. Now remember that this is different from negating their effects. Lad is negating their activation. So if Call of the Haunted is flipped up and you chain something like Trap Stun, which only negates the effects of traps, Call of the Haunted will stay in the field because it's still resolved properly. But Lad is negating the activation, so the card never correctly resolves, and then it'll be sent to the graveyard. So if you activate a continuous spell or trap under Lad, it will be sent to the graveyard on resolution when Lad successfully negates it. Now the part that says this card loses 500 attack and defense and the activation is negated occurs after the semicolon. It's not a cost, and it losing 500 attack and defense occurs simultaneously as the card he negates is negated. This also is in reference to what I said earlier. Lad has to be face up on the field on resolution of his effect to be able to negate something. He also has to have the sufficient amount of attack and defense to be able to negate something. So that means you can go activate an effect like Dark Hole, and then chain Book of Moon targeting that Lad. So Lad will be chain link 2 trying to negate the Dark Hole, Book of Moon will be chain link 3 flipping Lad face down. On resolution, Lad can't lose 500 attack and defense, so he will not negate anything, and Dark Hole will destroy all cards on the field. So that's important to know if you want to do a chain building in order to stop Lad's effect. Another thing about this effect is Lad will always negate the thing he responded to. So if simultaneous effects are going on the chain, let's say you have Marksman and Infantry going to the grave to attempt to summon a Megalo, Lad will negate the attempt to summon Light Megalo, and then those will start a new chain. So you can put Heavy Infantry as link 1 and Marksman as link 2. Lad will negate the Marksman, Heavy Infantry will resolve, and then you can destroy a card on the field, so you can block the chain in order to prevent Lad from negating the card that you don't want negated in a situation like that. Remember that when he has 800 attack, he no longer has the sufficient defense in order to negate cards. But it's also really important to know that even when he doesn't have enough attack or defense to negate cards, he, as a mandatory effect, will still attempt to trigger. Him losing 500 attack and defense is not a cost. So let's say you have an 800 attack. So let's say you have a lad on the field with no negations left, and you activate Monster Born. Monster Born will be Chain Link 1, Lad will be Chain Link 2, and this means your opponent cannot activate cards like Solemn Warning. And no, it being spell speed 3 doesn't mean that you can activate it before that mandatory effect activates. When mandatory effects are activating and building on the chain, you cannot interrupt that chain being built with a manually activated effect like Solemn Warning. So that means you can block the chain and block cards that would say negate the activation of this effect and destroy it. So Lad on the field, no negations, you activate Heavy Storm, people can't activate Starlight Road. So that's really important and cool to know. You can also create some really interesting situations with Lad. I used to play him back in 2010, and once I summoned him on the field while my opponent had a Stardust Dragon, and next turn, they forced a negation out of him, which put him at 23, so that Stardust could run it over. I had a set Book of Moon and set Mirror Force. This was back when Book was at 3. My opponent attacked the Lad with Stardust Dragon. I flipped up Mirror Force, so Lad automatically chained to that. The opponent doesn't get the opportunity to chain with Stardust Dragon, even if he wanted to. So Mirror Force Link 1, Lad Link 2, and then my opponent had no response. I flipped up Book of Moon, flipped the Lad face down. On resolution, Mirror Force resolves and destroys Stardust Dragon, and because this is on resolution of a chain, Stardust Dragon can no longer respond. You have to obviously respond when the chain is being built up, and because Lad was blocking him from doing that, there was no opportunity to be able to do that. So that's also something pretty cool to know. And also remember that even if an effect is being negated that says this effect can only be activated once per turn or once per duel, that you won't be able to try to activate that again. The game will still recognize that you attempted to activate that effect, so you can't try to blaster Lad to reduce its attack and then try to summon a blaster again to reduce its attack in that same turn. And then the last part. When this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, target one monster in your graveyard if possible, destroy all cards you control, also special summon that monster. Remember that even if you don't have a legal target in the graveyard, when Lad's destroyed, you still destroy all cards on your side of the field. Also, you obviously can't target the card that's going to be destroyed by Lad's effect, because Lad will target first before destroying your field. Summoning monster occurs simultaneously, so if somehow you have some sort of optional when you can effect that would activate when it's destroyed. The last thing in the game state to occur is also the destruction of the monster, not only just the summon of a monster, so you can actually activate those effects, so they do not miss timing. So Light Pulsar Dragon on the field being destroyed by a Lad will not miss its timing for its effect. This week's coupon code is going to be Core Negate. You can enter this upon checkout when purchasing Yu-Gi-Oh! Singles on the Core TCG website for a 10% return in all Yu-Gi-Oh! Single purchases back to you in store credit. Also, if you're interested in a box of Lord of Tachyon Galaxy, we are holding a giveaway on our Facebook like page. You can check it out. We have giveaways there all the time, so you can like that page if you want to keep up and potentially win all sorts of free product. My name's Amanda. I hope this video has helped. If you have any more questions about Light and Darkness Dragon or any ambiguities that I might have not covered, you can go ahead and leave a comment in the box below, and I will reply to you. Take care.